This slide is showing the thoracic cage, and I want you to first notice that there are 7 pairs of true ribs. So that accounts for the first 14 ribs. Then pair 8 through 12 are false ribs because they do not have a direct attachment to the sternum here. 2 of those false ribs are called floating ribs because they are not attached at all to the sacrum. So let's look at the parts of the sternum first here. We have the manubrium, which is the superiormost portion. Then the sternum or the body of the sternum is the next part. And then finally, the most inferior portion of the sternum is the xiphoid process. Notice that the numbers of the ribs are actually over here on the right. We can't see number 1 because it's actually just posterior to the clavicle in this case. So the first 7 pairs are true ribs because they have this direct attachment that you see to the sternum, even this one. However, the rest of them are false ribs, 8, 9, and 10. And then 11 and 12 are floating ribs. Between the ribs and the sternum is a type of hyaline cartilage, which is called costal cartilage based on its location. So the sternum, the adult sternum, in fact, often is called the breastbone in the anterior midline of the thoracic wall. It's composed of 3 major parts. The manubrium is the widest and most superior portion. Just inferior to that is the body of the sternum, which is the longest part of the sternum, and it articulates with the manubrium, which is superior to it, and inferiorly is the xiphoid process, the most inferior region of the sternum. The ribs are elongated, curved, flat bones that articulate posteriorly with the thoracic vertebrae and end in the anterior wall of the thorax, where many of them, especially the true ribs, ribs 1 through 7, are going to directly articulate with the sternum. The ribs have articular facets on the head, as well as the tubercle of each rib that articulates with the vertebral body and the transverse process. So as mentioned before, ribs 8 through 12 are false ribs because their costal cartilage do not attach directly to the sternum, and instead they indirectly attach to the sternum. And specifically, 2 pairs of those ribs, pairs 11 and 12, do not articulate with the sternum at all.